This is Dr. Charles Parker, and you're listening to Core Brain Journal. It's a place where I connect both fresh discoveries and interesting different perspectives from advanced mind science with the realities of real people and everyday life down on Main Street. Well, welcome, folks. This is Dr. Charles Parker. Welcome back to Core Brain Journal. We have had a really interesting series of people that we've been talking to, and this particular guest, Peggy Sealfon, is no exception. She's great. She's got a whole lot of very interesting things to say about her book, Escape from Anxiety, and what she does with strategies to heal people with wherever they're coming from in a constructive way. So, Peggy, welcome aboard. We're really pleased to have you with us.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm really pleased to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll introduce you, and then we'll talk a little bit about who you are, and then we'll go on and talk about what makes this conversation even more interesting is where we're going to go.
Right.
So Peggy is originally from New York City. She now resides down in beautiful Naples, Florida. She's a personal development coach, an author, and a motivational speaker. Using her advanced studies in the science and systems of integrated human development, she assists individuals towards higher levels of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. That's a big job, Peggy. Her integrated life personal coaching system is a customized approach. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this, to awaken personal balance and ignite the inner source of personal empowerment. And I want to hear more about this too. She combines ancient yogic techniques, mindfulness, and spirituality with functional medicine, modern psychology, energy medicine, nutrition, and neurosciences. Peggy, you have painted a broad brush over the entire situation. Unbelievable. So tell us a little more about your personal life, and then we'll go ahead and get to know you a little bit better. So,
well, let's see. How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. So true.
Because I tell people I have a PhD in reinventing myself because I've been through such a circuitous route. But, a lot of it started out of adversity. Just at a very young age, I had unidentified illnesses. I never made it to second grade for the first 2 months because I had this fever of unidentified origin. And as I got older, I ended up with a diastolic heart murmur, which doctors said never go away, and it went away. So all these sort of miraculous things happened. And in between that, I had a lot of sort of very highs and very lows. So I was really struggling with just mental stability. And as a result of that, I was suffering, and I was constantly searching for relief. And that was what really started me on this path that I've now blossomed into over the last dozen years, because I have a lot of business experiences, and that gave me access to a lot of different modalities. And so over the years, I've now trained in the variety that you just expounded on. And it's been fascinating because it's giving me more and more input to be able to understand how to help others relieve suffering, and also to be able to understand where our science is going and where it's evolving to.
Well, I'm so interested to have this conversation because honestly, I haven't been doing this for a long time, talking to people, and I've interviewed a number of people, but you have one of the most comprehensive approaches to across the spectrum. I mean, from yogic to everything, to nutrition. But you mentioned yogic the way you said it. I was wondering, my father had a book when I was a kid around the house by Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi. Mm-hmm. And that book fascinated me years ago. So do you actually, this is a bit deep, I'm jumping right off the edge of the cliff with you here, but do you actually do a type of meditation that takes you into those other experiences in the direction that he did?
Yes.
You do?
to answer in a short, well, I've really, what transitioned my path was about a dozen years ago meeting a world-renowned yogi master who was one of the first to bring yoga to the West back in the 1960s. And I didn't know him then, but he teaches a completely different yoga than we commonly understand today, because today's yoga has become very trendy, power yoga, hot yoga, all these different kinds of exercises, and it's become physical exercise rather than the integration of mind, body, heart, and spirit, which is what opens up a cosmic understanding and a consciousness that really does take you to another level of understanding. And that's really where all my teachings have now morphed into, is that understanding and that integration, that combining. And you can do it through yoga, you can do it through neuro-linguistic programming, you can do it with many, many different approaches. But the key is understanding who your client or patient is and being able to access them in a way that they can interact with this other level, other dimension, which is really the dimension of themselves.
So you're talking about a very complex set of variables right there. So take a moment, if you would, to give us an example about how you are with a person, they're having a certain presentation of difficulties, challenges in their own lives, and then you make an assessment, and then what might you do based on that assessment?
Well, let me give you an example. I worked with a client who came to me because she was CEO of a major nonprofit organization. She had relocated to an area from a major city. She was having a lot of transitional challenges, but the bottom line was every other week she was going to urgent care thinking she was having a heart attack. And so she came to me because she realized she needed some support and help, and what she was experiencing were panic attacks. So the first thing to do was to give her an experience in deep relaxation, really allowing her to experience that place where she's not in panic, where she's not in danger, where she's safe. It's really shutting down the fight or flight mechanism, because that was where she was living chronically. And you can't survive and function in that place of existence. It's totally detrimental hormonally to every part of your body. So what I did was I gave her access to an experience that literally opened up hope for her. And then we literally created a protocol that she could follow on a daily basis, and I coached her over a 30-day period every single day, basically, so that she could begin to assimilate some of these techniques and tools into her life and be able to integrate it in real time, so that as she hit crises or as difficulties arose, we could intervene. And what I call these tools interrupters. We could interrupt those patterns. And as you know from just neurosciences, we tend to create those neural pathways of habits that can be panic attacks or anxiety or stress, and we default to those neural pathways. So when you interrupt those pathways and intervene in ways that allow you to sort of break out of that, and then you repeatedly practice that, it actually begins to change your whole view of the world and your whole experience.
And it opens you up. So now you definitely piqued my interest. You said a whole lot there, and it was very, very interesting to take that trip with you with that person. But I want to go back to an important transition point that you were talking about right there when you said, I gave her, I paraphrase it, I gave her an activity, something to do, and after that she opened up. That to me is such a critical point right there. And then you amplified a little bit on it by saying, you know, that there were these other similar experiences that she had to keep her opened up. But what was that first one? What actually transformed her into the curiosity that she would work with you and actually begin to look more deeply into herself?
She was so high-strung and stressed out that what I did was I took her into just a 30-minute integrative relaxation experience, which is actually yoga nidra. So it's an ancient yogic technique. It's a yogic sleep but you're conscious. It takes you into deep levels of consciousness, into alpha, theta states, which of course are the places where you go at night when you go to sleep. Only again, in this instance, you're conscious. But it's extremely restorative. In fact, studies have been done with MRIs and brain scans and really looking at the effects of Yoga Nidra, and they've found that just 20 minutes of an experience is equivalent to 3 to 4 hours of deep REM, restorative rapid eye movement sleep. And so for her, that was this amazing boost of really being able to refocus and reset her mental processes, because she was so sleep deprived and panicked and worried that she could not really make good decisions or see her way clear to manage her job situation and all the other elements.
I'm sorry. I just got carried away. It was like a metaphoric pipeline right into her real self.
You know what? Thank you. That's exactly what it does. And the more you practice it, I've even used this on healing people who have chronic diseases, from cancers to fibromyalgias, even autoimmune deficiency diseases, because it brings people back into homeostatic balance, which is where our bodies and minds need to be in order to function the most optimally. And we get out of alignment so easily because of all of these pressures and external inputs, the life we live, the culture we're in, the electronics, the news, the bombardment of all of this data is toxic.
Yes,
and we get frazzled.
Okay, now so this is very interesting, because a lot of people are talking about meditation as a useful, but this is a different tool than just straight meditation, although it's meditative. It sounds like there's a little more juice to it than breathing deeply and having the white light come up and go back down. What would you say would be the juice that you think you really want to focus on when you're doing Yoga Nidra?
Well, with Yoga Nidra, you do it usually in a reclined position, so that immediately gives you a relaxation response. Mm-hmm. You can do it seated, but with meditation, a lot of people feel frustrated, and actually I teach meditation as well, and we can talk about that in a second, but with Yoga Nidra, it is not doing anything. It is following a guidance. With meditation, you're kind of in control of trying to clear out the cobwebs and clear out the thoughts, and for some people, they complain that, well, I can't sit still long enough, I have too many thoughts, which is not true. It's a myth, and I teach people who have never been able to do it, and they are able to do it. So that's not the case. That's just their mindset and their belief. But with Yoga Nidra, it's almost you surrender to the experience, and people even first time experiencing this technique go deeper than they've ever gone before. In fact, I used to do, and I still from time to time do, sports performance workshops. And I had a gentleman who took one of my workshops, and I did this as a recovery aspect for athletes, because in just 20 minutes, you're literally replenishing all your muscles. And he came to me after and he said, I am 59 years old. I have never felt that relaxed in my entire life. And that was kind of a scary thought, that he'd never been able to shut it all down and just surrender and just be quiet and just let himself heal. And he was actually recovering from a heart attack. Well, duh, surprise.
So it sounds like there is a mental, but it sounds like there's also a very specific physical objective. I didn't really hear it in what you were saying. Is there a specific physical objective that you do with breathing? Or do you actually do any visualization of relaxation? Or what happens in that regard?
Well, it's actually a series of steps that it's a journey. It's a guidance that I take people through. And it begins by just getting quiet and getting centered and focusing within. And it's really about merging mind and body into this integrated state, into this oneness. And it's really about energy and consciousness. So it's really about taking all that fractured energy and bringing it into alignment to allow the body is in a constant state of wanting to improve itself. But we do so many mental things and physical things, environmental toxic things, that try to interrupt that natural, energetic, biological flow that's really built in. And so this actually brings us back into alignment. So it's a series of guidance experiences where, and some of it actually I do sometimes do, as people are deep into the experience, I'll do words of polarity, anger, peace, fear, love, right. So that where people are so relaxed and deeply in this sort of neutral state that they have no responses to those words. They're just neutral because they're not good or bad. They're not right or wrong. They just are what they are. So it's learning to be an observer.
Peggy, this is so interesting. Now, for those of you, we're just getting into this, but Peggy is going to provide a book drawing for the listeners today. We're going to have this up for about 2 weeks from the time this is published. So it's going to be published April 15 when we put the first setup of interviews, and it's going to be up for 2 weeks, so you can drop your email there, and it'll be at this following link, corebrainjournal.com/016 download. And so if a person goes to, after we're up and published on April 15th, it's going to be corebrainjournal.com/016 download. And in your book, Peggy, now, are some of these things covered in that book?
The book is a compilation of over 100 strategies that can literally interrupt these stressful, anxiety-producing patterns. So I pull from all the different modalities that I've been trained in, that I've studied, but I've put it together in a way that's very digestible for people. So it's organized from A to Z. So someone who's really having a panic attack, they can almost go to any letter of the alphabet, open it up, pick one suggestion, do it, and they'll feel better. And then the second part of the book gives you a more sustainable understanding of neurosciences and really how to create a program for yourself using all these different strategies and how to develop a program that'll work for you. Because we're all a little different. So what resonates with one person may not resonate with another. So this was a compilation for me because I saw the big picture of, I look at this as energy medicine, really, because that's what it's all about, is bringing our energies into harmony and bringing them into balance. And there are over 100 approaches. There's probably thousands of approaches. But it's all based on energy, light, sound, electromagnetism, mind, body, heart, spirit. So it just brings all of those pieces together.
Well, it sounds so interesting. I mean, just as you were telling me, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to dive into the book. Because we see this all the time in daily practice. And forget whether you're a psychiatrist or, a coach of any kind. This is what goes on with humanity. We're all looking for answers to how to deal with adversity and really, forgive the trite expression, stuckness. We all get stuck in coping with changing reality. Reality changes, and the degree to which we are accepting, understanding, and being able to cope with that change is the degree to which we're not so stressed. We have some answers. And it sounds like you're providing. It sounds great, really.
Well, and as you well know, the reality that we create for ourselves really comes from so much pre-programming that creates an unreality. The way we think about ourselves, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do that. We have all these self-defeating thoughts that are based on this pre-programming from parents or teachers, and that colors our ability to function in what really is. And so that's what I help people do, is move into the reality of who they are, all their amazing talents. People are so talented and gifted, and they don't recognize it in themselves. So sometimes it's giving them a mirror so they can see it.
Well, it's so affirmative. I mean, when you look at it, everything you're saying takes away from the negative and the program negative and the self-criticism into a more affirmative, here's how we can constructively do something different with this difficulty, this reality that you're currently faced with.
Exactly.
So tell me this. Let's take another example of somebody that you've actually had an experience with that at first didn't work, that became an instructional opportunity for you, and then you're rethinking. And I'm surprising you with this, so you may not have one right on the top of your head. And I apologize, but you've piqued my curiosity. And I started thinking, how could listeners would like this. You could say, here's what I did first. It didn't work, and here's what I did that did work, and there was an instructive piece here. This is where I learned from this thing.
What's interesting is, what comes to mind is a young man I worked with who had a post-traumatic stress disorder experience. He was held up at gunpoint in his own restaurant. And he was not immediately able to assimilate some of these quieting tools and techniques because he was so paralyzed by these thoughts and fears that he had begun to ingrain. What I found, however, was that some of the techniques that I was attempting to work with him, like meditation and quiet and just even some physical releases, using ancient Chinese Qigong and some yoga moves and things that just help to move those stuck energies in ways that could be more productive. And it took a little bit of an effort on my part because what I didn't realize was he was from Bulgaria, and there was a little bit of a cultural disconnect. Mm-hmm. And so what I found with most clients, it's finding the channel of communication to reach what they can assimilate. And sometimes that takes some experimentation. So I've given myself a break. I don't always expect immediate results, but I find a way. I find the solutions. And what I really enjoy about working with a lot of the clients who I work with is that it's like a functional medicine approach in that it's really a partnership. And it's really a therapeutic kind of partnership where I'm not imposing, here's this, that, and the other thing. It's a give and take, and it's really interactive so that it really works for the person. Because if it's not going to work for them, obviously, it's not going to be worth anyone's time.
Yeah, you're not going to feel good about the process. So with him, what was it that unlocked him? He had a Bulgarian cultural lockdown situation. What was your ticket into that station?
Actually, it was through first dialogue, because he had to develop trust enough to be able to let go. And then actually I took him into a simple meditation technique that allowed him just to be quiet and allowed him to be free from the fear for even a minute. Mm-hmm. But just showing him that he could definitely detach from that fear, and that fear was something that he had taken on, and he could give it back. He didn't have to live with that. So that gave him a lot of hope, and he was terrific. After that, he was so quick to take on a lot of the different programs. And he was also having insomnia issues, and again, the Yoga Nidra was very effective for that because it helped replenish the sleep so that he could function better during the day. And he had a family, so he was much more able to interact with his family in a way that was more enjoyable for everyone, obviously.
Well, it's so much fun to see it when it does work with a person, when they have a little moment of success. They were lost, and then something happens where, like, oh my gosh, that door has opened a little bit. And the way you were saying it, I was walking through that interface between you and that person, and it sounded a little bit like guided imagery, a little bit. Because you were talking at the same time there was a meditative experience. So did you give him something? Was it a guided imagery? I mean, I don't.
I did do actually some visualizations with him. Mm-hmm. I've actually studied some of Dr. Moskowitz's work on pain interruption, and using visualization that two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. And so when you use visualization, that area of the brain can no longer have the fears and the anxiety for those moments. And so when you can begin to expand the visualization. So that was what I helped him develop, were visualizations that he could go to really switch out of the fear. Because the fear would come on, he'd be standing on the grocery line, picking up some food for the family that night, and he would see someone who reminded him of the perpetrator in his restaurant, and the fear would come back. So he learned how to literally shift out of that fear and be able to replace those thoughts with this beautiful visualization that gave him pleasure.
So interesting, so interesting. Yeah, I did a little bit of guided imagery a long time ago, and I had so many interesting experiences with it. When I really don't do that anymore. I would like to spend some more time with it, but I'm so biologically, tied up with things. But it's interesting how a person can actually completely change where they are when they've said goodbye to a loved one who passed away, that died suddenly. They go in and it's a different world all of a sudden. They've actually said goodbye. They wanted to say goodbye. They couldn't say goodbye, and they said goodbye.
Right. And the other thing is that, through neurolinguistic programming, I've learned that a visualization is reality in that moment that you're visualizing it. So the more you can add elements to it that create a reality about it, whether it's an image of yourself standing on the edge of a river, hearing the sound of the river, seeing the colors, feeling it, tasting it, if it's salt or clear or whatever, that creates more impact for really being able to use that as an interrupter.
Very interesting. That is interesting. So let me ask you this, one other quick thing. What would you say would be a provocative, positive direction for people to go in that would help them develop? And your book is going to be of interest. Do you have any other specific places that you would say, hey guys, in addition to what I'm doing here, here's another really good place to get some more of this information and grow your own experience?
There's a lot of information available online. Actually, a great place to go would be the Institute of Noetic Sciences, ions.org. Are you familiar with them?
No, I'm not.
It was started by Edgar Mitchell. He was the 6th astronaut to walk on the moon. And when he was coming back to Earth, he had this epiphany, seeing Earth as this sort of fragile globe just hanging there and this amazing interconnectedness. And what he saw was that all things in the cosmos are truly interconnected at a quantum level. And he's a scientist, he was an astronaut, he unfortunately recently passed away, but he saw that quantum level, we have constant influences, so we really are all part of this web of creation, and it's very impactful. So he founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is doing a lot of this mind science research and also showing how powerful the mind can be on health and well-being. They've instituted some programs in hospitals all over the world. So to me, that's really fascinating. But just on a personal level, I do have a couple of opportunities for listeners to just try a short little 3-minute to de-stress that I provide for free. And they can just go to 3minutesToDestress.com and download that audio. And what I recommend is that they use it first thing in the morning to sort of relax their day and then set their task list. Or if they're having a really frazzling kind of stressful day, to just stop for 3 minutes? And it will actually give them more energy, give them better focus, it'll have their brain working better. So that would just be a quick little hands-on thing that they could access immediately.
See, that's fantastic. I know the listeners are going to jump on that. I'm going to, check that out and get it right in the show notes. I'm going to have the Institute for Noetic Sciences in the show notes. And was there? Did you have let's tell us what your website is, but did you have something in addition to that 3-minute?
Actually, I have a number of free offerings on my website. So if they go to PeggySealfon.com, they'll see a big red circle that says start here. And if they click that, that will take them to a number of different approaches. So they can kind of go through that checklist and pick and choose what might work for them. I'm really here to serve, and there's a lot of content on that site. I have some free videos, 1-minute videos that can help interrupt stress, anxiety, just very basic techniques. So there's a lot of material there available to anybody who wants to access it.
What a super contribution that is. I mean, it's going to be so much fun. I want to go over there myself. I need it tonight, you know? It's one of these things where it's going to be very interesting. You're so articulate and so much fun to talk to.
Well, thank you. It's a joy to be here with you. I love what you're doing, and I'm just so happy to be able to contribute a small part of it, because this is a field that's very near and dear to my heart, and there's so much more we need to learn, and we need to be more cooperative about it and more transparent.
So true, and that is our mission. I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing this is just to put people like you in with the public, because you do want to make a difference, and these kinds of small items can have exponential benefits to people down the road if they just pop in, listen to them. And I'm looking forward to reading your book. I'm gonna get that book and get it and see what's going on, because you sound like you've put together such a tremendous amount of excellent information. Escape from Anxiety. It's going to be great. So,
and the subtitle is Supercharge Your Life with Powerful Strategies from A to Z. So it's really about what you have available to you, this amazing potential. Because I think too many people get caught up in the downtrodden side of, oh, you know, I suffer anxiety, I'm stuck. And no one is stuck.
And I love strategies. Strategies is a great idea, because if you have it in your mind and you actually take it into your heart and begin to use it effectively, you can significantly contribute to any change you're trying to make with any professional. Even if you're not seeing a professional, you can do it yourself if you really have a plan. I mean, that's what you bring to the table, is some serious comprehensive planning. Comprehensive is my favorite word. I don't know if you knew that.
I like that. Yes, that's mine too.
We can live comprehensively. I mean, well, and you deal with the complexity of mind science. It has to be comprehensive. You can't be reductionistic or simplistic in dealing with a human being. And if you are, you're just missing a very large portion of it. The more we articulate the confluence of complexities and really look comprehensively, the more effective we're going to be. And that's why I really appreciate a person like yourself being here. Just thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. No, this is my joy, is to explore these areas and to be able to interact with people of your caliber and be able to really be part of this bigger picture, because I think we all need to contribute to it and we need to keep expanding it.
So Peggy, some people will just be listening to this, they won't be on the website. Spell exactly the spelling of your URL of your website, and we'll send people over there as we sign off.
So actually, they could just get anxiety.com, or they could go to integratedlifeplan.com, and that will filter all into, since they might not be able to spell Sealfon, that'll be an easy way to access it.
The Skype broke up a little bit there, so it's escapefromanxiety.com and
or integratedlifeplan.com.
Good.
And those both funnel into my website, where they can get all the other free items that are available.
Makes it really easy. Thank you so much for taking the time, Peggy. It's really great talking to you.
Thank you so much, Chuck. This has been awesome. Thank you.
We're going to have you back down the road, definitely.
Wonderful.
It's so much fun talking to folks like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Core Brain Journal. We're working every day behind the scenes to bring you reports that connect research benches with those street trenches. Here we share the complexity of mind science because, as you know, details really do matter. One of the most pervasive, misunderstood challenges is how commonplace medications, like those written for ADHD, are used so regularly without clear guidelines. If you think you'd like more specifics, take a minute to download my 2-page PDF packed with video links and references, on the absolute essentials of how to start ADHD medications. They're easily available at corebrainjournal.com/start. Thanks for listening. Do connect and stay tuned. Together we can make a difference.